The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and dreamed of what waited beyond. In the year 2347, those dreams became real. Human scientists cracked the secret of faster-than-light travel. And suddenly the universe opened its doors. Kim Hannah stood at the window of her quarters aboard the diplomatic vessel Harmony, watching the stars streak past like silver rain. She was 43 years old, with kind eyes and a gentle smile that had ended more conflicts than any weapon ever could. Earth had chosen her to be humanity's voice among the stars, and she carried that responsibility like a sacred trust. Her younger brother Minho had called her before she left Earth. He was a captain in the United Earth Fleet, stationed near the outer colonies. His face had been tight with worry on the screen. "I don't trust them," he had said. "These aliens, this council, we know nothing about them." Hannah had laughed softly. "That is why I'm going, little brother. To learn, to build bridges. War is easy. Peace takes courage." Minho had not looked convinced, but he had wished her well. That was 3 weeks ago. Now the Harmony was approaching Nexus Prime. It's a great station that served as the heart of the Galactic Council. The Council was old. 12 alien civilizations had formed it over 10,000 years ago, creating laws and trade agreements that governed countless worlds. When humanity announced its presence, the Council had seemed welcoming. They invited Earth to send a representative. They spoke of friendship and cooperation. Hannah believed them. She wanted to believe them. The station was enormous, a spinning ring of metal and light that could hold millions of beings. Hannah's shuttle docked at a port reserved for honored guests. Alien guards in ceremonial armor escorted her through corridors filled with wonders. She saw species she had never imagined, heard languages that sounded like music and thunder and whispers all at once. High Arbiter Velos met her in the Grand Chamber. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and eyes like polished stones. His species, the Valorans, had founded the Council long ago. They considered themselves the wise elders of the galaxy. "Welcome, Ambassador Kim," Velos said. His voice was smooth, almost musical. "Humanity's first steps among the stars. How exciting this must be for your people." Hannah bowed respectfully. "We are honored by your invitation, High Arbiter. Earth comes in peace, seeking friendship and understanding." Velos smiled, but there was something cold in that smile. Something Hannah did not notice because she was too busy hoping. The council session began the next day. Hannah presented humanity's formal request for membership. She spoke of Earth's history, its struggles, its dreams. She talked about art and music and the human spirit that never stopped reaching for something greater. The delegates listened politely, their faces unreadable. What Hannah did not know was that another meeting had happened the night before. A secret meeting, deep in the station's restricted levels. Velos had addressed the council's inner circle, his stone eyes gleaming in the dim light. "You have seen the reports," he said. "These humans breed like insects. They adapt to any environment. They learn faster than any species we have encountered. In 300 years, they went from primitive machines to faster-than-light travel. Do you understand what this means?" Commander Torek, military leader of the Helix Dominion, nodded grimly. "They are dangerous. Perhaps more dangerous than any threat we have faced. They are vermin," another delegate hissed. "Clever vermin, but vermin nonetheless." Velos raised a hand for silence. "We have maintained order in this galaxy for 10 millennia. We have crushed rebellions, absorbed empires, and eliminated threats before they could grow. The humans are young, weak. Now is the time to act before they become something we cannot control." The vote was unanimous. Humanity had to be contained, and the best way to contain them was to teach them fear. 3 days later, Hannah was arrested. She was in her quarters, preparing for another round of negotiations when the guards came. They wore black armor instead of ceremonial gold, and their weapons were drawn. Ambassador Kimhana, the lead guard, announced, "You are charged with genetic espionage and conspiracy to destabilize the galactic order. You will come with us." Anna's heart froze. "This is a mistake. I have done nothing wrong. Please let me speak to High Arbiter Velos. They did not answer. They dragged her through the corridors she had walked as an honored guest, past aliens who watched with cold curiosity. She was thrown into a cell that smelled of metal and despair. The trial was a mockery. It lasted less than 4 hours. Hannah stood before the council, her hands bound, her voice steady despite the terror in her heart. She presented evidence of her innocence. She begged them to see reason. Velos watched her with those stone eyes, and she finally understood. This had never been about evidence. This had never been about truth. This was a message. The council finds Ambassador Kim Hannah guilty, Velos announced. The sentence is death by disintegration, to be carried out immediately. Hannah did not cry. She did not beg. She stood straight and looked into the cameras that broadcast her image across the galaxy. My people came here with open hands, she said quietly. We offered friendship. We offered peace. Remember this moment. Remember what you chose. The disintegration beam hit her. For one terrible second, her body glowed white. Then she was gone. Nothing remained. Not ash, not bone, not memory. Just empty air where a woman had stood. On Earth, billions watched the broadcast. In homes and offices, in schools and military bases, people saw their ambassador erased from existence. The planet fell silent. A silence so deep it seemed to swallow all sound. Captain Lee Min-ho was on patrol when the message reached him. He watched the recording in his quarters, alone. He watched his sister die 17 times. His face did not change. His eyes did not water. But something inside him turned to ice, and that ice began to burn with a fire that would never go out. In the halls of power, emergency sessions convened. Leaders who had argued for decades suddenly found themselves united. The divisions that had plagued humanity for centuries melted away like frost. Under a sun of pure rage, they had come to the stars with hope. They had offered peace, and the galaxy had answered with murder. Now the galaxy would learn what humanity became when hope died. The silence lasted. 3 days. 3 days where Earth seemed to hold its breath. People went to work, but they did not speak. Children went to school, but they did not play. The world moved in slow motion, trapped in a grief too large for words. On the 4th day, Admiral Park Jisoo addressed the United Earth Assembly. She was 57 years old. A small woman with silver hair cut short and eyes that had seen too many battles. She had fought in the Colony Wars, the Mars Rebellion, and a dozen smaller conflicts that history had already forgotten. She knew violence. She knew sacrifice. And she knew that some wounds could not be healed with peace. The assembly hall was packed. Every representative from every nation sat in their seats, faces pale and drawn. Cameras broadcast the meeting to every screen on Earth and every human colony in the stars. Jisoo walked to the podium slowly. She did not carry notes. She did not need them. 4 days ago, she began, her voice quiet but clear. The Galactic Council murdered Ambassador Kim Hannah. They called it justice. They called it law. But we all saw what it truly was. It was a message. She paused, letting the silence grow heavy. They wanted us to learn our place. They wanted us to understand that we are small, weak, and alone. They believed that by killing one woman, they could break the spirit of 8 billion people. Her eyes swept across the assembly. Meeting gaze after gaze, they were wrong. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Jisoo raised her hand and silence returned. Ambassador Kim came to them with an open heart. She believed in the goodness of others. She believed that different species could live together in peace. The council looked at her kindness and saw weakness. They looked at our hope and saw stupidity. Jisoo's voice hardened, growing cold as deep space. We did not come to the stars to beg for scraps at their table. We did not build ships that cross the void so that we could bow to creatures who think themselves our masters. The universe is vast, and it belongs to those with the courage to claim it. She leaned forward, her words falling like stones into still water. I am not here to ask for revenge. Revenge is hot and quick and fades like fire. What I ask for is something colder. something that will not fade. I asked this assembly to authorize total war against the Galactic Council and every civilization that stood silent while our ambassador was murdered. The assembly erupted. Representatives shouted, some in protest, others in fierce agreement. But when the vote came, there was no division. For the first time in human history, every nation on Earth voted as one. War was declared, not against a single enemy, but against a galaxy that had chosen to make humanity its victim. In the weeks that followed, Earth transformed. Factories that had built consumer goods now produced weapons. Shipyards that had constructed exploration vessels now assembled warships. Scientists who had dreamed of peaceful discoveries now worked day and night to create tools of destruction. Dr. Yoon Suji led the weapons development program. She was a genius. Everyone agreed on that. Before Hannah's death, she had been working on medical technology, searching for cures to diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. Now she turned her brilliant mind to darker purposes. "No, do not enjoy this work," she told her team on the first day. "But I will do it. I will do it because they took something from us that can never be returned. And I will make sure that they regret it for the rest of their existence." Within 3 months, Suji's team had reverse-engineered captured alien technology. Within 6 months, they had improved upon it. Human weapons became faster, deadlier, more efficient than anything the Council had ever faced. Captain Lee Minho threw himself into training with a focus that frightened his fellow officers. He ran simulations until his eyes bled. He studied alien tactics until he could predict enemy movements before they happened. He never spoke about his sister. He did not need to. Everyone knew why he fought. His commanding officer pulled him aside one evening. "You need rest, Captain. You will burn out." Minho looked at him with eyes that held no warmth. "Rest is for after." There is no after until this is done. He was promoted to command the battleship Vengeance. The name was his choice. General Choi Tae-young prepared the ground forces. He was a massive man, broad-shouldered and scarred from a lifetime of combat. His soldiers called him father, not because he was gentle, but because he would die for any one of them without hesitation. "The aliens think we are soft," he told his troops during training. "They have fought wars for thousands of years, and they believe they know what war means. They do not. They have never faced humans. They have never faced a species that will crawl through fire and blood and keep crawling until the enemy stops moving." He trained them in ways the military academies had never taught. He made them faster, harder, more adaptable than any force in human history. Far away, in the halls of Nexus Prime, High Arbiter Velos received reports of humanity's preparations. He read them with mild interest and set them aside. "Let them build their toys," he told Commander Torek. "They are primitives playing at war. When they attack, we will crush them, and then we will take their worlds for ourselves. Their population will serve us well as laborers." Torek was less certain. "The humans adapt quickly, High Arbiter. Perhaps we should increase our border defenses." Fellows waved a dismissive hand. "A waste of resources. Station a token fleet at the border? That will be more than enough." He returned to his politics and his schemes, confident in the superiority of his kind. He did not see the storm gathering. He did not feel the cold wind that was coming. He believed, as his ancestors had believed for 10,000 years, that the Council was unbreakable. On Earth, Admiral Jisoo reviewed the final fleet reports. 300 warships, each one carrying enough firepower to crack a moon. More were being built every day. She looked at the holographic display showing the border systems, the alien outposts, the paths through space that would lead her forces to victory. "They think we are coming for revenge," she said quietly to her aide. "They think this is anger. They are wrong. Anger fades. What we bring is judgment. And judgment does not stop until the scales are balanced." She activated the fleet-wide communication channel. Her voice reached every ship, every soldier, every human who had sworn to fight. "The Council believes we will break. They believe we will tire. They believe that eventually we will accept our place beneath them. Let us show them the truth. Let us show them what happens when humanity decides that something must be done." The fleet began to move. Stars blurred into lines of light. And across the galaxy, the Galactic Council had no idea that death was coming. The Helix Dominion outpost at Cora 7 was quiet that night. Commander Torek had stationed 50 ships there, more than enough to handle any threat. His officers played games of chance in the recreation halls. His soldiers slept in their bunks, dreaming of home at exactly midnight. Galactic Standard Time, the stars began to move. Lieutenant Peril was the first to notice. He was young, barely out of training, assigned to the sensor station because it was considered a boring job. Nothing ever happened at Cora 7. Nothing had happened there for 300 years. "Commander," he said, his voice uncertain, "I am detecting multiple contacts emerging from faster-than-light travel. Many contacts. Very many contacts." Torek looked up from his meal, annoyed. "How many?" Peril's face went pale as his screen filled with red dots. 300, sir." 300 warships. Torek dropped his food. "That is impossible. Sound the alarm. All ships to battle stations." But it was already too late. The human fleet emerged from the void like wolves descending on sleeping prey. Admiral Jizu had planned this moment for months. Every ship knew its target. Every weapon was already locked. There was no warning, no demand for surrender, no offer of negotiation. There was only fire. Captain Lee Minho sat in the command chair of the Vengeance, his hands steady on the armrests. Before him, the alien outpost glittered against the stars. His sister had died for wanting peace. Now, he would show the galaxy what humanity chose instead. "All weapons free," he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "Begin." The Vengeance opened fire. Beams of concentrated energy sliced through enemy ships like knives through paper. Missiles streaked across the void, leaving trails of white light. The alien fleet tried to respond, but they were scattered, confused, waking from sleep to find death already upon them. Across 47 star systems, the same scene played out. Human warships appeared from nowhere, struck with devastating precision, and left nothing but wreckage behind. The Council had expected raids. They had expected skirmishes. They had not expected this. Commander Torek managed to rally 12 ships around his flagship. He was a veteran of 100 battles, and he knew when a fight was lost. But he was too proud to run. "All ships concentrate fire on the lead human vessel," he ordered. "If we must die, we will take their commander with us." The 12 ships turned toward the Vengeance, weapons blazing. Minho watched them come without fear. "Interesting," he murmured. He pressed a button on his chair. "All nearby ships, ignore the enemy flagship. He is mine." The Vengeance surged forward directly into the enemy formation. It was suicide, by any reasonable calculation. 12 ships against one? But Minho had stopped making reasonable calculations the day his sister died. His ship twisted and spun, avoiding shots that should have been impossible to dodge. Human reflexes, human creativity, human madness. The alien gunners could not predict his movements because his movements made no sense. He fought like a man with nothing to lose, and against such a man, no advantage was ever enough. One by one, the enemy ships fell. Minho destroyed 5 of them himself, dancing through their fire like a ghost. The others were torn apart by nearby human vessels that ignored his orders and came to support their captain anyway. Finally, only Torek's flagship remained. Its shields were failing, its weapons damaged, its crew dying. Torek stood on his bridge, watching the human ship approach. He felt something he had never felt before in his long military career. Fear. A communication channel opened. Minho's face appeared on Torek's screen. The human's eyes were dark, empty of mercy. "Commander Torek," Minho said, "I am giving you one chance to surrender. Not because you deserve it, but because I want your council to see what awaits them." Torek straightened his spine. He was a warrior. He would not beg. "I do not surrender to primitives." Ambassador Kim Henna asked for peace. You gave her death. Remember that in whatever afterlife your kind believes in. Remember that you chose this. The Vengeance fired. Torek's flagship exploded in a bloom of orange and white. The commander died without making a sound. Across the galaxy, the Council received the reports. Every border outpost destroyed, every defense fleet shattered. In 6 hours, humanity had done more damage than any enemy had done in 1,000 years. High Arbiter Velos stood in the council chamber, his stone eyes wide with shock. The holographic display showed red markers everywhere, each one representing a human victory. His carefully built sense of superiority cracked like ice in spring. "This is not possible," he whispered. "They are primitives. They have only had starships for 50 years. Delegate Mirasol, a slender being with silver skin and sad eyes, watched from her seat. She had voted against Hannah's execution. She had argued that humanity should be welcomed, not feared. No one had listened. Now, she watched the cost of that choice unfold in fire and blood. "Admiral," Jizu broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. Her face appeared on screens in every council world, every space station, every ship that could receive a signal. "I am Admiral Park Jisoo of the United Earth Fleet," she said. "6 months ago, you murdered Ambassador Kim Hannah. You thought this would teach us our place. You thought we would cower and accept your rule. You were wrong." She paused, letting her words sink in. "This is not revenge. Revenge is emotional, temporary, satisfied by blood. What we bring is justice. Justice does not tire. Justice does not stop. Justice continues until the scales are balanced." Her eyes seemed to look directly at Velos, though she could not possibly know where he was. "We are coming for Nexus Prime. We are coming for your council. We are coming for everyone who sat in that chamber and watched an innocent woman die. You have time to prepare. Use it well. It will not save you." The transmission ended. Silence filled the council chamber. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Icy Council faced an enemy they could not dismiss, could not ignore, could not easily destroy. Humanity had announced itself not as beggars seeking acceptance, but as conquerors demanding payment, and the payment would be very, very high. On the Vengeance, Minho sat alone in his quarters. The battle was over. His ship had survived, scarred but unbroken. He should have felt satisfaction. He should have felt triumph. He felt nothing. He pulled out a small holographic projector and activated it. His sister's face appeared, smiling, frozen in a moment from years ago. "I am sorry, Hannah," he whispered. "You wanted peace. I will give you something else. I will give you a galaxy that will never forget your name." He deactivated the projector and returned to the bridge. There was more work to do. There was always more work to do. The war had only just begun. The war entered its 2nd year. And the galaxy learned to fear a new name, the Iron Ghost. General Choi Tae-young moved through enemy territory like smoke through fingers. His ground forces appeared on planets without warning, struck military targets with terrible efficiency, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. No one knew where he would attack next. No one could predict his movements. Council generals studied his tactics for hours and still could not understand how he did what he did. The answer was simple. Tae-young did not follow rules. He did not respect traditions. He did what worked, regardless of whether it was considered proper or honorable. War, he believed, was not a game with fair rules. War was survival, and in survival, only results mattered, on the industrial world of Helen Prime. Tae-young led 1,000 soldiers against a garrison of 10,000 aliens. The enemy commander laughed when he heard the numbers. He ordered his troops to surround the human landing zone and crush the invaders. 3 days later, the garrison surrendered. Tae-young had not attacked the soldiers directly. He had attacked their water supply, their communication towers, their power generators. He had made their weapons useless and their food impossible to cook. He had turned their strength into weakness. When the enemy commander was brought before him, the alien looked at Tae-young with confusion and fear. "How?" the commander asked. "How did you defeat us with so few soldiers?" Tae-young did not smile. He rarely smiled. "You built walls to keep enemies out. You never considered what would happen if the enemy was already inside. That is your problem. You think in straight lines. We think in circles. He let the commander go, sending him back to the council with a message. There was no safe place. There was no defense strong enough. Humanity would find a way through, far from the battlefields. Dr. Yoon Suji completed her masterwork. She called it the Sunbreaker. It was not a large device, no bigger than a shuttle. But inside that small shell was the power to destroy stars. The weapon could destabilize a sun's core, causing it to expand and consume everything in its system. Planets, moons, stations, billions of lives. All erased in an instant. Suji presented the weapon to Admiral Jisoo in a secure laboratory deep beneath Earth's surface. The Admiral looked at the device with an expression that was difficult to read. You have built a weapon that can kill worlds, Jisoo said quietly. Suji nodded, her face pale. I have. I do not recommend using it. The destruction would be too great, too permanent. We would become monsters. Then why build it? Suji met her eyes. Because they need to know we can. Fear is a weapon too, Admiral. Sometimes the threat of destruction is more powerful than destruction itself. Jisoo understood. The Sunbreaker was announced to the galaxy through every communication channel. The Council watched the demonstration, a controlled detonation that turned a dead star into a supernova. They understood the message clearly. Humanity could end worlds. They were choosing not to. This restraint was not mercy. It was contempt. Humanity was saying, we do not need to destroy you. You are not worth the effort. In the council chambers, panic grew. High Arbiter Velos tried to maintain control, but his authority crumbled with each human victory. Delegates screamed at each other, blaming everyone except themselves. Some suggested surrender. Others demanded more aggressive tactics. No one could agree on anything. Only Delegate Mirasol remained calm. She had watched Hannah's execution with horror. She had been one of 3 delegates who voted against it, and she had carried guilt ever since. Now she made a decision that would change the course of the war. Late one night, she sent an encrypted message to Admiral Jisoo's personal channel. She offered intelligence, fleet movements, supply routes, everything she could access. In return, she asked for one thing: mercy for those who had not wanted the war. Jisoo read the message in her quarters, aboard the command ship Resolution. She considered it for a long time. Trust was dangerous in war. Traps were everywhere. But there was something in Mirasol's words that felt genuine. She agreed to meet. The meeting happened on a dead moon. Far from prying eyes, Mirasol came alone, wearing plain clothes, carrying no weapons. Jisoo brought 2 guards but kept them at a distance. Why? Jisoo asked simply. Why betray your own kind? Mirasol's silver face was sad. Because they are not my kind anymore. I watched Ambassador Kim die, and I felt my soul tear in half. She came to us with hope. She believed we were good. We killed her for that belief. She looked at the stars, her eyes reflecting their light. Not all of us wanted this. Some of us mourned her too. Some of us knew even then that we had made a terrible mistake, but we were too weak to stop it, too afraid to speak loudly enough. Jisoo studied her for a long moment. If I use your information, many of your people will die. Yes. Mirasol's voice was steady. But if you do not end this war, even more will die. And humanity will never trust the galaxy again. The cycle of fear and hatred will continue forever. That is a worse fate than death. Oh. Jisoo nodded slowly. Very well. Give me what you have. Help me reach Velos. After that, we will see what remains of your council worth saving. Mirasol became humanity's most valuable spy. Through her information, human forces avoided 3 major ambushes. They destroyed the council's primary shipyard, cutting off the production of new warships. They found secret weapons caches and eliminated them. Before they could be used, the war turned sharply in humanity's favor. Velos discovered the betrayal too late. He ordered Mirasol's arrest, but she had already fled to human protection. He raged in his chambers, breaking ancient artifacts, screaming curses at a galaxy that no longer obeyed him. They were nothing, he snarled to his remaining advisors. They were insects crawling in the dirt while we built civilizations among the stars. How can this be happening? No one had an answer. The Council had underestimated humanity from the very beginning. They had seen a young species and assumed weakness. They had seen kindness and assumed stupidity. They had never considered that humans were simply waiting to show their true nature. Now the true nature was revealed, patient, methodical, absolutely relentless. Admiral Jisoo looked at the star map in her command center. Nexus Prime was finally within reach. The Council's defenses had crumbled. Their fleets were scattered. Their leaders were frightened and divided. "Signal all ships," she said. "We move on Nexus Prime in 48 hours. This ends where it began." Captain Minho received the order on the Vengeance. He read it twice, feeling something stir in his chest. Not joy, not satisfaction, just cold purpose, finally approaching its destination. "Hannah," he whispered to himself. "I am almost there. I am almost done." He prepared his ship for the final battle. The end was coming. Nexus Prime hung in space like a dying god, its lights flickering as the human fleet approached. The station had stood for 10,000 years, a symbol of the Council's power and wisdom. Now it would become a symbol of something else entirely. Every surviving Council warship had gathered here for the final defense. 2,000 vessels formed a wall of metal and fire around the station. It was the largest fleet assembled in galactic history. Admiral Jisoo looked at the enemy formation with calm eyes. Her own fleet numbered only 800 ships, but numbers had never worried her. Numbers were just numbers. What mattered was will, and humanity's will was iron. "All ships," she said into the fleet-wide channel. "This is where Ambassador Kim Hannah died. This is where they laughed at our grief and called us primitives. Remember what they took from us. Remember why we are here." She paused, then spoke the words that would be carved into history. "Today the Council learns what primitives can do. All ships attack." The battle began. Space itself seemed to burn as the two fleets collided. Beams of energy crossed like deadly rain. Missiles streaked in all directions. Ships exploded, their crews dying in silence, or sacrifice witnessed only by the cold stars. Captain Minho pushed the Vengeance forward, deeper into the enemy formation. His ship was scarred from 2 years of war, its hull patched and repatched. But its weapons were sharp, and its crew was ready. They fought their way toward the station, leaving destroyed ships in their wake. An alien cruiser blocked their path. It was massive, 3 times the size of the Vengeance, its weapons already charging. "Hard left full power to forward shields," Minho ordered. Then, almost as an afterthought, "prepare ramming speed." His first officer stared at him. "Captain, that ship will tear us apart." Minho did not look away from the screen. "Maybe. Do it anyway." The Vengeance turned directly toward the cruiser. The enemy ship fired everything it had. The human vessel shuddered, its shields failing, its hull cracking, but it did not stop. It did not slow down. At the last moment, the alien cruiser tried to turn away. Too late. The Vengeance struck its shield generator at full speed, tearing through metal and circuitry, destroying the enemy's protection in a single, devastating blow. Human support ships swarmed in immediately, finishing what Minho had started. The cruiser exploded. The Vengeance tumbled through the debris, damaged but alive. Ash. Shield generator down, weapons at 60%. Multiple hull breaches, the damage control officer reported. Minho allowed himself a small, cold smile. Good enough. Continue toward the station. On Nexus Prime, General Tae-young led the ground assault. His soldiers breached the station's outer hull and poured inside, fighting through corridors designed by alien minds. The defenders were numerous and determined, but they faced the Iron Ghost. And the Iron Ghost did not know how to lose. Tae-young moved at the front of his forces, his massive frame carving a path through the enemy. He fought with a rifle in one hand and a blade in the other, switching between them depending on the distance. His soldiers followed him with the faith of men who had seen miracles. They reached the council chamber after 6 hours of continuous combat. The doors were sealed, protected by shields that should have been unbreakable. Dr. Yoon Tae-young said into his communicator. "I need those doors open." Suji's voice came back, calm despite the chaos around her. "Give me 30 seconds. 27 seconds later, the shields flickered and died. Tae-young kicked the doors open and led his soldiers inside. High Arbiter Velos stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by a dozen guards in ceremonial armor. He looked older than he had in the broadcasts, his gray skin pale, his stone eyes wide with fear he could not quite hide. "Stay back," he commanded, his voice attempting authority. "This is sacred ground. You have no right to be here." Tae-young did not slow down. His soldiers cut through the guards in seconds, precise and efficient, professional violence without hatred or pleasure. When it was done, only Velos remained standing. Admiral Jisoo entered the chamber moments later. Her uniform was perfect, unmarked by battle, a deliberate contrast to the chaos around her. She walked toward Velos with slow, measured steps. "Hi, Arbiter," she said. "We meet at last." Velos tried to straighten his spine to find some shred of dignity. "If you kill me, you prove everything we said about humanity. You prove that you are animals fit only for violence." Jisoo studied him for a long moment. Then she pulled out a data pad and activated it. Hannah's face appeared on the screen, frozen in her final moment, her expression calm and sad. "You killed her because you were afraid of what we might become," Jisoo said quietly. "Do you understand now? Do you see what your fear created?" Velos sneered, one last act of defiance. "You are still animals. Violence is all you know." Jisoo nodded slowly, her expression never changing. "Perhaps, but we learned it from you." She deactivated the data pad and made her decision. Velos was not executed. He was exiled to a barren moon at the edge of known space, given only a single transmission beacon and enough supplies to survive. He would spend the rest of his days watching as humanity rebuilt the council. Under new terms, every species that had participated in Hannah's death was required to pay reparations. Their offensive fleets were dismantled. Their weapons were destroyed. They accepted human oversight of their governments, not as conquered subjects, but as students learning a lesson they should have understood long ago. Not all aliens resisted. Delegate Mirasol stood before the new assembly, speaking on behalf of those who had opposed the execution. She became the first alien appointed to the new council, a symbol of the peace that could exist between species. Who chose understanding over fear, Captain Minho did not attend the ceremonies. While others celebrated, he walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime, till he found the exact spot where his sister had died. There was nothing there. No mark on the floor, no plaque on the wall. Just empty space where a woman had stood and believed in the good of others. He knelt and placed a small holographic projector on the ground. When he activated it, Hannah's image appeared, smiling, her eyes full of the hope she had carried to the stars. "You wanted peace," he whispered. "I could not give you that, but I gave you something else. I gave you a galaxy that will remember your name forever. I gave you justice." He stood and walked away. The hologram remained, glowing softly in the dim light. A permanent memorial to a woman who had dreamed of friendship and found only death. Outside, Admiral Jisoo addressed the new galaxy. Her words were broadcast to every world, every station, every ship that could receive a signal. 2 years ago, you killed our ambassador because you were afraid. You believed we were weak because we sought peace. You believed we were foolish because we offered trust. Today, you understand the truth. She paused, her eyes hard as steel. Humanity did not come to the stars to conquer. We came to explore, to learn, to grow. We offered friendship, and you answered with murder. So we showed you what we become when friendship is refused. Her voice softened, just slightly. The killing is done. Now comes the harder work, building something better. We will not rule you as tyrants. We will not take revenge for revenge's sake. But we will never forget, and neither will you. She turned away from the cameras. Behind her, the stars burned bright and cold. Witnesses to a new chapter in galactic history. Humanity had come to the universe as hopeful children. They left as something else entirely. They left as a warning. Never again.